So most epoxy contractors, they think that they need more leads, better ads, or more reviews. And that's just the story that they've been sold. They think that leads are going to solve everything, that better ads equals more booked jobs, or they've been told to get 55-star reviews and then the phone never stops ringing. But here's the truth. Even if you do the review thing, that is true. But if your back end is broken, more leads is just going to multiply the chaos in your business. It's like pouring water into a cracked bucket, right? You don't need more water. You need to actually fix the leak. And for most epoxy contractors in the 20 to 40K a month range, the real leak is this, that you're not stuck because of your work ethic. You work hard, you do amazing, but you're stuck because of your workflow. And that's the thing, that, what got you here isn't what's going to get you to the next level, right? So again, you got to look at these things. The real bottleneck, it's not leads. You don't need to run a new ads campaign. You don't need a new lead gen partner even. You need to fix the 3 systems that are actually, killing your growth in your business. And that's going to be broken follow-up, slow quoting, or never even getting to the customer at all when they come in, or just having no cash cushion in your business. And we can go ahead and break this down. The old way is, like, you're already familiar with this pain, right? You text the lead, you hope that they reply. If they don't reply, you just write them off and you move on, right? And then you send a quote 2 or 3 days later, or you reach out to them and say, hey, what was going on? When you finally have some time because you're busy, right? And at that point, the lead has already ghosted. You end up trying to chase them around, and it ends up being pretty freaking awkward, right? And then the thing is that you need the deposit from that job to even buy flakes or pay your guys on Friday. This model, that's not scalable at all. And it's barely even going to survive, right? And every single part of it depends on you showing up. It depends on you remembering, and it depends on you staying on top of 100 different moving parts. And that's not a business. That's just a fancy job, essentially. And really, ultimately, it just creates chaos in your business. So what is the new way? What if instead your follow-up just fired off automatically with the perfectly timed frequency of follow-ups as well? That's super important, right? What about if every single lead just got a ballpark quote instantly while you're still on the job? Or what if your calendar just filled itself and deposits come in faster, your cash flow is getting smoothed out, and you can finally breathe in your business, right? And this is not just theory. It's exactly what we've built for epoxy contractors. So let me show you the 3 moves that make all of this possible, okay? The 3P sales system here. The first one is the follow-up fix. Most epoxy contractors, they send a quote and then they just hope. They're running on hoping. But hope itself does not close jobs. It's systems that help close those jobs. So our setup at Never Stop, it delivers a 5-touch follow-up sequence that actually revives dead leads that you have written off, and it actually closes more jobs automatically for you. We send out a quote reminder 48 hours after the quotes get sent. We start initiating objection handling messaging in the follow-up itself. And through this process, we start to urge them, like, are you sure? Like, is there anything stopping you? Do you still want to get on the calendar? And then as we get closer to about day 14, actually, we do our final check-in and just say, hey, like, if you want to go ahead and move forward, just reach out here, right? It's all automated. There's no chasing on your end, and there's no forgetting. There's no leads slipping through the cracks, right? And just on average with most guys that we work with, just this process alone can add in about 2 to 5 extra closed jobs every single month. And that's, again, without buying more leads or increasing your ad spend, doing any of that stuff, right? So the second piece would be the fast quote delivery system. And speed is a sales weapon. If you're quoting like days after somebody reaches out, they're already gone. They forgot what ad you're talking about. They're not going to have any clue when you try to reach out to them. I'm sure that you've experienced this, right? But what we do is we actually build a smart quoting system that instantly delivers them a range estimate based on the square footage, the surface type that they want, and then when they're looking to get it done. That doesn't really impact the quote itself, but we do collect that information, right? And then we also prompt the lead once they've seen that ballpark, that range, to actually book an on-site inspection with like the owner or your team. So that we let them know, like, to lock in a firm price, like an actual price, we need to come by and see the property essentially. But at that point, that they're qualified at the price range that you have given me. So I'll ask guys, what do you charge? $6 to $8 per square foot. whatever the square footage is and whatever, you know, if it's 6 to 8 for that surface type, then my system will automatically send them that exact range from 6 to 8 times the multiplied by the square footage, right? And then when they see that and they book, again, at least you know that they're in that price range essentially, right? So at this point, you stop following up altogether. The system itself, with a few exceptions, but you stop forgetting to follow up in that process as well. If you don't have to follow up, the system follows up. You never end up in a place where you end up forgetting to follow up with the leads and then losing that lead, right? And then your leads, they stop hiring up your competitors while you're knee deep in other installs, right? So what do those results look like? You'll end up with faster responses, of course, but one of the big ones is that you'll have less ghosting. And then from that, you'll have more booked jobs, right? And then the third piece is looking at your cash flow. Quoting and booking, it is great, but if your numbers are wrong, your cash flow is always going to be tight. You need to really hone in on your margins, right? The real problem is not just payment delays. It's actually that most epoxy contractors are closing jobs without actually making any money. And if you don't know your numbers, this is going to be really hard for you, right? You don't even know if you quote $6 per square foot. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know if that's going to be profitable for you, especially when you start to factor in like the variable costs, like, you know, crack filler and other things that come into play, your gas, and hiring people as well. So it's not that you're getting paid too late or, you know, people are taking too long to pay their deposits or any of that. You're just getting paid too little. You're charging way too little, right? And the reason why you're probably charging too little is because most epoxy contractors are actually copying their competitors who might not even be profitable themselves, right? You're just trusting your gut instinct saying like, yeah, I think this would be a good price instead of knowing what your real margins are. Or you're just anchoring your price like way too low. You're starting at $5.50 per square foot when you should probably be starting at like $7 if you plan to go that far low. So that way you can at least cover some gap in that margin. When you start at $5, the only place you can go is to $4. You know, you don't want to be doing that. And there's no advantage in being like the cheapest person out there. It only hurts your margins and you don't look like you don't stand out from your pricing, you know? And so the results of all of this is, you know, you're doing 5 jobs a month just to barely keep up. If not, you know, but if you're doing 5 jobs a week, that's good. But again, you need to make sure that your margins are right to where you're actually profitable from doing that, or else you're just spinning wheels and kind of doing jobs for free. And that's really not scalable for you, right? That's just survival mode, right? So the fix for that is to actually price for your profit, not for like what feels good and what you're panicking about. So we install a pricing system that actually ensures that every job is paying you well. And we do this by giving you a plug and play epoxy pricing calculator that you can pull up while you're out and about. If you're getting a quote, whatever it may be, you just type in the square footage, your materials, and it will show you what your actual job costs are, not just for materials, but also show you how to build in like target margins into your quoting strategy. And when you look at that calculator, it'll make a little bit more sense. But we do recommend at least starting at 50%. You can walk yourself all the way back down to 30%, which is usually for most guys in the flake world, is about $5.50, somewhere in that range, right? It depends on your costs, but whatever that is, you need to find that out and then start quoting at 50%. And then you can also set like a minimum job price. So that way, you know, like you just can't go that low and you stop working for free in all of your jobs, right? So again, you just input your project size, like your labor, your materials, your consumables, and the calculator will actually show you the total cost, your target margin, the price per square foot, and the projected profit that you'd be looking at getting from that job. And then you can choose the margin itself, whether that's 30%, 40%, 50% margins. But the good thing with this is that there's no more guessing. You don't have fear. You're not running in circles. It's just really clean, confident quoting that actually pays you and helps you grow your business, right? And so why does this matter more than like payment speed? If your quoting is wrong from the start, basically no automation is going to save you. But when your pricing is right, you can afford to pay helpers on the floor. You can pay for people to call your leads. You can actually build a cushion for like delays or callbacks on the systems that you're installing. and you can finally start to breathe and start to build your business. But you have to get your pricing right. And to get your pricing right, you have to know your numbers, right? You don't need to underbid your jobs just so that way you can stay busy. You need to quote within margins and then speak to the value. So that way the business can actually run itself and fund itself. So if you want that calculator, you can go ahead and DM me if wherever you're seeing this, or just go to neverstopagency.com. And I'll actually send you that exact tool that our clients use to get those quotes, to be able to quote with their profit, protect their profit, and to finally start paying themselves like owners and hiring people to come in and help out, right? So this is how we help guys go from 3K jobs that feel really tight to like 4.7K quotes that actually help the business scale. You need to work smarter, you need to price better, and you need to actually build a business, right? And you can take a look at these results. Basically, he was doing about 3 to 4 jobs, getting a bunch of manual quotes out, but he was only closing so many. We installed this system, our automated system, and helped him out with his pricing. And then the next month, he closed 7 jobs, doubled his booking rate, right? Same ads, it's just a better back end than the back on the backside, helping with that flow of leads coming in. You don't really need, like I said, a new ad. You need to stop dropping the ball after every single lead comes in. And if they don't reply to you, right? If they're not perfect and just ready to book and close, a lot of you guys just let those leads slip through the cracks, right? So again, you don't need more leads right now. You've got a bucket that's got a crack in it. You don't need to keep pouring water in there. You need to close that up and close the jobs that you are leads that you already have, right? And you need to close those leads faster. And then when you start to do this in the long run, one of the wildest things that you'll see is that your business actually starts to become predictable. You can say, if I spend this much, I can get this much money out because I'll get this many booked jobs on the calendar and I'll close those, right? So the main point here is that you need to find the bottlenecks, you need to find the cracks in the bucket, and you need to fix those. You need to patch that and then turn the lead tap back on once those have been repaired, right? Just like anything else in life, you can kind of go through these things, but sometimes stuff is moving so fast and, you're like, I heard this, I heard that, right? This is really what it comes down to, is like, find where the things are leaking out, whether that's after you send a quote, people are falling out. What's the problem there? And fix that bottleneck, which might be your sales team. You might need to train them more, or if it's you might not be presenting your quotes properly, right? But whatever it is, you just need to look and be honest with yourself and then fix those bottlenecks. And then once you've fixed everything, that's when you can go and turn on the ads and when those leads are coming in, nothing will be pouring out. You'll be capturing the most value out of all of those leads, which is amazing, because if you go and run your numbers, I talk to a bunch of guys all the time, and you'd be surprised. Like guys are like spending, $1,000 to $2,000 a month on ad spend, and they're getting, 50 to 100 leads a month. And half of those, whether they're getting 50 leads or they're getting 100 leads, half of those leads, which, again, if you're spending a lot and you're getting a lot and you're losing a lot, that's not good. That could be a marketing problem, but you don't know if you're not tracking any of this stuff. And if you're not trying to fix any of those cracks, if you're just keep pouring me in more leads, it's probably going to just make the leak even worse, to be honest. Again, just think about other situations in life and try to apply that to your business. And that's how real growth actually works in your business, right? So if this resonates with you and you want to see how it will work inside of your actual setup, whether you're using Jobber, House Call Pro, Drip Jobs, any of that, you can go ahead and book a free strategy call as well at neverstopagency.com. And on that call, we'll review, your quote flow, what happens when the leads come in, what your follow-up process is. And we can always look at your cash position as well and what your margins are looking like. And in that call, we'll show you exactly which bottlenecks are costing you the most and how to fix that. Again, you don't need more hustle. You need a machine that works when you can. So let's go ahead and build that for you today. Okay.